Welcome. Thank you very much. I only have 15 minutes, like all the other slots. I also have a lot of slides. So let me jump right in. So let me make sure. There we go. It's a build slide. So I assume most of you have heard about Qualcomm. Qualcomm is a company that is in transition. We went from being obviously a powerhouse in the handset market to now expanding into lots of other verticals. Auto, XR, you obviously have seen the PC, the Windows on ARM efforts, IoT, we're all over the place and we're continue to expand. And one of the challenges with that is actually transforming our software organization as well. And specifically, how can it scale across all those different businesses? So when you listen to these slides, my key job is how to build a scalable software organization where I get lots of reuse about what we're doing. Now, obviously, Qualcomm as a company has a whole set of assets that are very critical in this space. One of them is obviously our low power, right? That comes from our handset heritage, and that has worked very well for us on the PC side. It is working very well in all these other verticals. The other part of it, too, is AI. Handsets have been doing AI for a long, long time, even before LLMs, which became popular 3 years ago. And it's been kind of interesting to see this transition, how we took our AI algorithms that were largely used on camera and computer vision, and then actually were able to run large language models on them and do all the things that you see around generative AI right now. So one of the advantages of that is that AI is embedded in our roadmap. It's across all our product. All our products have AI accelerators in them of one shape or another. So, as I said, my job is to build a scalable software organization. And one of the key things we've been looking at and we've been driving, and I refer to it here as simplification, because that's in essence what it is. Now, internally, we've got other names for it, and we've got a whole bunch of initiatives around it. But effectively, it comes down to two things. One is mainlining our software stacks. And that applies to things like Linux, but it applies to our camera stack. It applies to our ISP stacks, whatever you can think of. We have lots of complicated stacks. And all of that needs to be integrated. And what does mainline mean here? Mainline means there is one version of that software stack, and it supports all our products across all our product lines. And that's a massive undertaking because we're coming from this consumer electronic mindset where you build a product, it lasts for a few years, you build a software product for it, and then you move on. The next product is going to be entirely different. That no longer works, especially not if you have to give 8-year lifetime guarantees for handsets, 10-year for IoT, 15 for auto. You have to have software stacks that evolve and grow with the existing products. Another part of that, too, is actually consistent boot environments. So we've been on an effort to get system-ready launched in everything we do. And I'll talk about that a little bit later, too, but you've seen it on the IoT devices already, and I talked about that last year as well. And then open source is a key component of it. Because open source is also about, like, hey, how can I harness, how can I help the community as well as help myself? There's a lot of stuff I don't have to reinvent because the community has already done it, and it's much easier to adopt that. The same thing for public standards. Adopt public standards as opposed to inventing your own. So you'll see me talk a little bit more about that as well. Then, of course, we've taken on lots of efforts. We've been working with the Lenaro landing team on getting Yocto. We now have cone ownership around the Yocto meta layers. So we've been actively working on that. We've been actively working on getting all of that stuff in the open and get all our devices supported in the open. We've got Debian building. So lots of good progress. And then, as I said, unified boot flow. So standardizing around system ready, standardizing around having one device tree per platform, so that, again, there is a universal notion of this is what the platform looks like. This is what the description is of the platform. One thing I've been specifically proud of is our efforts around Ubuntu. And so we actually announced in 2024 with Canonical that we actually have the concept images for our X Elite platforms. Now, the reason why this is interesting, obviously we've done an enormous amount of work on this, as you can tell. The reason why this is interesting and also a challenge is that this platform is primarily a Windows platform. So it wasn't really designed with Linux in mind. Yet, we've been able to bring that up, but you do run into challenges. I read the Phoronix article that was posted last week, and I think that has some fair criticism. And one of them is like, hey, it's really difficult to install, or there are bugs in it. Now, all those bugs we have actually fixed, but getting them out to the OEM, having the OEM do a BIOS upgrade for this, or in some cases have the ODM do a BIOS upgrade, which then the OEM needs to distribute, is a real challenge. So what we've actually done for the next generation product that will be coming out this year, we've been working with ARM, with NVIDIA, with Microsoft, and we defined something called the PC-BSA. So the PC-based system architecture. Think system ready for PC. And that has as definition, it has to boot Windows and it has to boot Linux. So that will be the standard going forward there, and that will make a lot of these kind of challenges that we're currently running into with Hamoa a lot easier. But pretty excited about this. The developers, certainly in my organization, they like this platform and very much depend on it. Oh, I need to make sure I point in the right direction. So obviously, Qualcomm continues to do lots of contributions to Linux. We've been working closely with the landing teams, so great relationship there. We've been adding support for many new platforms that we're building, many new SoCs that we're actually putting out, specifically in the IoT space. We tend to take parts that we've already done for other projects and then rebrand them and update the software stack for it and put them in the IoT space. You can sort of read through this yourself. Again, in the interest of time, I will not spend too much time on it. But basically, again, we have a gamut of technologies all the way from Wi-Fi to power management to video, to sound, all of that's being enabled. Looking at the statistics, again, together with the Linaro lending team, we're continuing to be an active contributor to Linux, and we're continuing to make lots of contributions together. So thank you for that, and that number continues to increase. So let me change gear a little bit. So you've heard about Windows on ARM. So obviously, this is something we've been very actively working on. We've been working with the community around really what I call the base layer of software. Now, obviously, because Windows on ARM still has a legacy, or Windows has a legacy issue, there is about 40 years of x86 software there. Emulation, specifically through Prism, is extremely critical for us. And so we've been working closely with Microsoft on tuning that, adding capabilities to the hardware to do the binary translation more efficiently. And that's been a good effort. That actually allows us to run a lot more software. Then obviously we've created a developer portal where we have a list of like everything that runs on Qualcomm and has been tested on Qualcomm. So that's sort of, as I say, the base enablement. That includes all the tools, the LLVM tools that we've been working together on with Linaro and Microsoft. It includes other kinds of tools. Then, of course, there is the AI component. As I said, every part that Qualcomm ships has an AI accelerator in it of some sort or some shape. Some are bigger, some are smaller. It depends a little bit on what the function of it is. So putting all the tools out of that, working closely with Microsoft, again, on that ecosystem, getting the Onyx supplicants and all of that supported, that's been a lot of effort. And then the third one is quite interesting, and that is gaming. So a lot of effort has been going into gaming and optimizing for games. It's one of the things that people are really interested in, especially when they buy a high-end laptop. They want to have a good gaming experience. And so then you run into things like all the anti-cheat mechanisms, which is actually a fascinating problem by itself, because in order to do anti-cheat and to detect that you're running on real hardware as opposed to an emulator, These folks are doing all sorts of interesting hacks, which are very hard to emulate or not emulatable at all. So there's been a lot of effort actually getting that to run natively so we can start enabling all these game engines. So this is, in a nutshell, sort of where the focus is on our Windows, on ARM efforts. So let me now change gear again. We have done a number of acquisitions over the last year. And I sort of wanted to put that in context for you, what we're actually doing there. So first of all, we acquired Foundries. So Foundries provides sort of this base layer of an OS, and it can manage millions of devices. It can manage devices at scale and keep that up to date. And that's the OS, and that's the firmware that runs on it. And they can do this securely, as you would expect. And of course, one of the big benefits there, right, is to address all the CRA concerns, or the new CRA regulations, and addressing those concerns. So that's one part of it. That provides the base platform. The other acquisition we did, and we call it AI Hub, is really you should think of as an app store for AI models. So we've been actively working on getting AI models to the Qualcomm platforms, optimizing them for the Qualcomm platforms, and making them available on our hub. And that, of course, is linked in from Hugging Face, so it participates in all the normal ecosystems. So this is an easy way, if you need some translation model, if you need some large language model, if you need some Whisper model, you can download that from the AI Hub. So that brings together then the third one that I'm particularly excited about. And this is the acquisition we did a few months ago, and that is with Edge Impulse. So what Edge Impulse can do, it actually can push these models out to the edge, to the end devices, these IoT devices. It can also gather data from these end devices, and then use that to retrain the models, and then update the models again. So, for example, I know the Foundries folks did a demo where they were at Embedded World, and they basically had an algorithm that recognized faces in that audience, and it had a success rate that wasn't particularly great. And so what they did is they recorded the live stream using the Edge Impulse and the Foundries technologies, right? Recorded that, retrained the model, pushed it back down onto the device that was active on the floor, and all of a sudden the accuracy went way, way up, right? So this is sort of the strength of these three acquisitions, right? We're bringing together the base foundation of the platform so we can securely keep that up to date. We're having an AI store where we're actively developing AI models and making them available and easy to use for our customers. And then there is the Edge Impulse component where we actually can keep the models up to date. We can get data, retrain the models on them, and again, push that out. So AI at the edge for Qualcomm is actually much more than, hey, we got a bunch of platforms that have accelerators in it. We're actually getting into the solution space where we're actually delivering solutions right to our customers and provide that as a service. So pretty excited about that particular move. Okay, you guys have seen this slide before. And in the interest of time, I'm not going to talk about all of it. But we've got this notion of developer first, really pivoting the Qualcomm mentality, the Qualcomm culture about focus on the developer. What is it what they need? How do we make things easy for them to use? Again, that first statement I made about simplification, that is throughout here. Open source is a key component of that because a lot of our developers, certainly in the IoT space, are working with open source components. So making sure that works out of the box and that is a good experience is absolutely critical. And it helps Qualcomm too, because it helps us to scale. We don't have to reinvent everything anymore. Standards, a key component as well. We have to adopt existing standards, and if they don't exist, we'll work together with the community, like the PCBSA effort that we did, to create those standards, because this helps us and it helps everybody else. Documentation, something Qualcomm was not particularly good at in the past, but again, we've spent a lot of effort on actually getting our documentation out, getting developer documentation out so you can actually get a board and the full instructions on how to get it up and running. Work to be done there, but I think it's all trending in the right process, in the right direction. So, in the interest of time, let me wrap it up because I've got things flashing at me here. So, we are working in the open source community actively, and you've seen it, we're hiring lots of maintainers as well, to accelerate our time to market and to drive our innovation, right? So that's a key component of it, why we're actively in open source. Obviously, on-device AI, as I said, we have a lot of capabilities, right, that came from our handset days and are throughout the entire roadmap that we have. And we're actively working on building and enabling services on top of that and bringing those services into Qualcomm as well, so we actually can get a much closer connection between the hardware and those services to get the best experience for our customers. So, and then of course the developer-first approach continues. It's a journey. It's not something that one click and everything is fixed. We are working on it. We're continuing to learn. We have dogfooding teams. We're doing a lot of customer outreach and developer outreach, and we're constantly learning from that. So with that, thank you very much. And I'm going to hand it off to you, Bill.